According to North Korea, its third attempt to place a spy satellite into orbit has been successful. And that's not it. The regime says it's going to launch more in the future. For more, we're joined by Professor Lee Hee-eun this morning. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
North Korea did go ahead with what appears to be its third attempt to launch its first ever spy satellite into orbit late last night, which says it was a success this time. Now, did you see the success coming?
Well, it was hard to see maybe this would be a success, but I think given the recent summit between Kim Jong-un and Vladimir Putin, there was expectations that the Russians would give technical assistance to North Korea, for their failures in the past. And so I think in some sense there was some expectation maybe that this would be a success, but of course we would have to have waited and seen. And so therefore, since if this has indeed been a success, I think this points to maybe Russia's involvement in terms of helping North Korea with respect to developing its missile technology, which of course is very worrisome for neighboring countries.
Definitely, authorities from the South Korean side and also the U.S. are still trying to verify the success to see if Russia actually has played a role in making that launch so-called successful. Then in response, South Korea says it will partially suspend the 2018 military agreement. Now, then what would that mean for the two Koreas and the situation here on the Korean Peninsula?
Right. That agreement, of course, was made in 2018, and the idea was to sort of lessen the tensions between the two countries. That included, for example, as you mentioned, no-fly zones, and also the prevention of military exercises in certain key areas. But the NSC, of course, has just recently announced that they will suspend a part of the agreement. They won't pull out completely, but specifically, I think this references Article 1, Clause 3 of the agreement, which establishes, again, these no-fly zones, which now I think will mean South Korea will include sort of unmanned, maybe drones to now patrol the area, so to maybe potentially look for, North Korean artillery. This may also include the inclusion of military exercises that were once prohibited. So I think this will mean that there will be greater activity in the areas near the MDL, which of course may potentially raise tensions between both sides.
Right, and the missile launch actually, the satellite launch actually happened when President Yoon is on his state visit to the UK, and even from there, he virtually convened an emergency meeting to cope with the situation. Now, speaking of President Yoon, let's talk about his state visit to the UK. He was greeted with a full, royal pomp and ceremony. Professor Lee, how did you see the royal greetings?
Well, obviously, a state visit is quite a different level of visit than, let's say, another kind of official visit, let's say, with the Prime Minister of the UK. So this really signifies, the sort of the standing that Korea has with the UK and UK's sort of expectations and hopes that this relationship will be upgraded to a different level. And I think so. This is a sort of proper, sign of respect for South Korea in its standing in the world, and I think just because of it's a royal setting, I think we'll see, of course, lots of attention paid to the ceremonies that are attached to it. But it really is a sort of a welcome sort of hosting of a world leader, and the stature of South Korea being at such a high level, I think it's appropriate given the circumstances.
Definitely. The visit also comes timely considering the 140 years of diplomatic ties between the two countries. Let's also talk about the core of the state visit, the Downing Street Accord that has brought their bilateral ties to a whole new level. South Korea, the UK will launch and also negotiations as part of the accord for a revision of their free trade agreement, they say. The question is, what kind of revision or improvement can we actually expect?
So the UK and South Korea, of course, have a free trade agreement, and that was sort of rolled over from the EU agreement that was made, of course, many years ago. And so since the UK at that time was a member of the EU, and now because of Brexit, now separated from the EU, there's sort of a separate deal between the two sides that sort of is the original agreement between the EU and South Korea. But in this case, the agreement, I think, will, particularly for the UK side, be very interesting because they want to, of course, sell more products in South Korea. And so this will sort of now solidify sort of their standing with respect to the South Korean economy, and vice versa. South Korea, of course, wants to put a lot of products into the UK. And so by having sort of a separate deal beyond the EU framework, I think provides sort of opportunities for both sides to, again, lower tariff barriers and other barriers to trade, which I think they will see greater enhancements in their relationship.
Definitely lots of win-win situations there. And it's not just economic collaboration. The two countries have also agreed to upgrade their cooperation in the fields of defense and security by expanding joint drills and joint arms exports and also dealing with issues here on the Korean Peninsula. Then why is it important to elevate their partnership in defense and security? I mean, why does it matter for the UK?
Well, the UK, of course, wants to diversify its relationships with Asian countries, and by strengthening ties, of course, with the Indo-Pacific region, basically, the UK has had very close relationships with Japan and Australia. But I think South Korea presents another opportunity for the UK to sort of, again, increase its clout within the region and sort of be relevant as a global power. So in this case, this cooperation with defense and security, I think, provides an opportunity for the UK sort of to have a larger voice sort of on the global stage when it comes to issues of security in this part of the world.
All right. Thank you, Professor Lee, and so much, as always, for your insights. We appreciate it.
Thank you.